Welcome back to my channel, The Historic State. Before we descend into the crushing, claustrophobic 2 minutes that saved $1 billion nuclear asset, proving that the quietest person in the room often holds the highest command authority, hit that like button and subscribe right now. Your singular support is the only fuel that powers these high-stakes intelligence stories of quiet, technical brilliance. Now, let's talk about the ultimate pressure cooker, a nuclear submarine. Beneath thousands of feet of crushing water, this vessel is more than just a ship. It's a self-contained civilization of terrifying power, operating on absolute, unquestioning faith in its technology. Here, the highest authority belongs to the person with the most stripes, the loudest voice, and the longest record of kinetic command. Today, we bring you the surgical, terrifying story of Rear Admiral Silas Thorne, a man whose career was built on aggressive maneuvering and raw authority, who believed competence was measured in sheer force of will, and analyst Dr. Evelyn Reed. Dr. Reed was hired as a specialized IT consultant, in Thorne's dismissive terms, for her perfect data logs and her utterly unthreatening presence. Thorne publicly scoffed at her, reducing her role to that of a glorified typist. He was catastrophically, existentially wrong. When their sub was suddenly crippled by a catastrophic system collapse, Evelyn's immediate response was not panic, but the activation of a counter-protocol so deep, so obscure, that she didn't just save their lives. She exposed the entire Navy's blind reliance on systems she herself had deemed fallible years ago. Nelgore Stage is the control center of the USS Trident, a hunter-killer submarine patrolling deep in hostile waters. Rear Admiral Silas Thorne was the definition of Cold War naval aristocracy. He trusted metal, fuel, and the thunder of his own commands. He believed only in what he could physically see and control. And then there was Dr. Evelyn Reed. Evelyn was a phenomenon, a theoretical systems architect who was brought on board purely to audit the sub's new digital core. She sat silently, diligently cross-referencing encrypted data streams against the system's stress points. Her uniform was a neutral technician's shirt. Her presence was deliberately low profile. For Thorne, she was the epitome of the non-essential civilian element, a necessary evil, Dr. Reed. आप ये data entry ठीक से करिए या बस coffee पीने का wait करिए? Make absolutely certain those logs are clean. किसी technical college student की गलती की वजह से हम सब डूब नहीं सकते. Someone has to do the boring, necessary stuff while the rest of us worry about command decisions and hostile naval strategy. Evelyn never offered a defense. She knew her power lay in being invisible, unremarkable, and consistently underestimated. While Thorne focused on the periscope, the rudder, and the immediate depth changes, Evelyn's mind processed the system-level vulnerabilities, the backdoors, and the core coding flaws. She had internalized the entire vessel's blueprint not as a suggestion, but as the master code of a fragile machine. Thorne saw a typist good at logging errors. Evelyn saw the entire matrix of collapse that Thorne was completely blind to. The crisis was instant, total, and terrifyingly precise. It wasn't an enemy torpedo. It was a systemic digital failure, a cascading, internal software breakdown triggered by a deep-sea seismic shock the sub was supposed to withstand. All primary and secondary control systems died simultaneously. The main reactor controls locked into a temporary hold state. The USS Trident became a dead weight, drifting rapidly toward its crush depth. Damn it! What the hell happened? Restore main power. Navigator, give me depth. Engineering, override the lock. Now Thorne's training immediately reverted to loud brute force demands. He relied on the system's standard, high-level protocols. But the failure wasn't external. It was internal. The hard reboot failed instantly. The emergency manual overrides dependent on an intact core system were useless. Brute force was meaningless against the digital cancer that had locked the boat in time. Admiral, the hydraulics are failing. We are losing depth rapidly. We can't regain control. While Thorne and the bridge crew yelled at dead panels, Evelyn was already operating in the ghost dimension of the vessel's architecture. She didn't fight the systemic collapse. She identified the single point of total isolation, a forgotten, obscure, and deliberately complicated piece of emergency hardware that bypassed the entire modern digital core. NNSHE performed a move that the standard operating manuals deemed impossible for a non-engineer, manually inputting the original, pre-digital final protocol directly into the ancient hardware slot. This protocol was designed in the 1970s and maintained as a backup only for a scenario exactly like this, a scenario she had predicted and documented. Nin, Admiral Thorne, stop shouting. The system is dead. Isse modern software se control nahi kar sakte. I am activating the final protocol. It's a hardwired analog bypass. You must hold your position. Evelyn's hands didn't hesitate. She executed a perfect, complex manual sequence. She wasn't rebooting the system. She was rewriting the core control loop using the most primitive, yet most reliable hardware available. The USS Trident had just been moved out of the digital age and into the age of pure hardwired control. Within seconds, the main screens flickered back to life, displaying simple green text outputs. The sub's descent stopped violently, stabilizing just feet above crush depth. The catastrophic collapse was over. NNTHE USS Trident was instantly secure. The Admiral and his officers stood in stunned, heavy silence. Evelyn Reed, the glorified typist, simply turned to face them. Admiral. Control regained. The primary failure originated from a known core conflict in the new operating system's kernel, which I logged and flagged as Catastrophic Risk 5.1 in my initial audit report. I bypassed it using the analog protocol E14. We are on manual power control and Reed. Ye aapne kya kiya? How in the hell did you know that protocol? Ye to kisi ko pata hi nahi hai. Who authorized you to even know about the E14 system? That's not IT support. That's core command architecture. Name, Thorne. Stand down and verify your depth. You are extremely lucky Dr. Reed was even in that room. Let me clarify something that should have been obvious to a man of your experience. Dr. Evelyn Reed is not here for typing speed. She is the original lead designer of the E14 analog system itself, the most compartmentalized emergency failsafe in the entire fleet. वो system है जिसको आपने अभी use किया है. She operates on a level that your standard naval training simply cannot comprehend. Analyst Dr. Evelyn Reed simply returned to her laptop, her silence now carrying the weight of the entire nuclear deterrent. Her quiet brilliance had instantly neutralized a catastrophe and exposed the fatal flaw of relying on modern digital convenience over proven, hardwired ingenuity. NNSHE taught the Admiral a brutal, undeniable lesson. The most dangerous threat to any operation is the quiet genius you mistake for a background detail. True power doesn't shout commands or kick down hatches. It simply writes the absolute rules of survival from the shadows. NNT thank you for watching The Historic State. If this story of analog brilliance, shattered arrogance, and the ultimate technical ghost moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us, in a crisis, do you trust raw command authority or the hardwired failsafe? Because here, we know that the greatest strength is not the stripe on your shoulder, but the mind that designed the machine and wins the war before it begins.